Why advertising doesn't work. For chiropractors, anyway. Hi, I'm Dr. Bob Braille. And in the next few minutes, we're going to explore the reason why advertising hasn't really changed the public perception of chiropractic. In fact, how does the public in general respond to the chiropractic message? We'll answer these questions shortly. First of all, I think there are some questions we really need to ask, some hard questions, such as, why isn't everyone going to a chiropractor? I mean, it seems like a really good idea. Chiropractic makes sense. How come everybody doesn't go? After over 100 years, in fact almost 120, why have we only gotten to 11 to 12% of the population? Well, in essence, we've made it as high as 14% in any given year. But after 120 years, why have we only gotten that high? How come everyone doesn't get it? I'm sure each of you has explained chiropractic to a patient only to have a patient look at you with a blank stare and not understand. Why doesn't advertising work to convince people about chiropractic? You know, I've had students run up to me and say, hey, let's get a Super Bowl ad about chiropractic. Well, advertising doesn't work. For those of us who advertised years ago, it worked years ago, and then it started working less and less till today. Hardcore advertising is pretty much a waste of money when it comes to chiropractic. How can we compete with the drug companies who spend billions of dollars selling to the general public? The drug companies spend $29 billion a year on promotion. That is almost 3 times what the chiropractic profession grosses in a year. So we can't compare with them in spending money. We have to find other ways to get the population to understand what it is we do and want our services. Are we really getting our message out to the mainstream masses? Well, if we're honest with ourselves, we're not. So we're going to be looking at the reasons why that's not happening and how we can make it happen. We're going to start off by asking ourselves, how did I come to this information? Where did I get this from? And the reality is that the information you're about to see today, I came across because I was looking to sell websites. And in all honesty, I didn't know anything about marketing websites. I didn't know anything about marketing, technology at all. And I was referred to a book. That book was called Crossing the Chasm by Jeffrey Moore. Now, as I read this book, it didn't say anything about chiropractic, but the parallels and understanding of chiropractic relative to the general population's acceptance was clear in my mind after reading this book. Jeffrey Moore, Crossing the Chasm. So let's look a little bit at this, and we're going to start off with understanding innovation acceptance in the general population. You see, basically, as Moore describes it in his book, there are 2 types of innovations. There are continuous innovations, and there are discontinuous innovations. Now, continuous innovations are the types of things that innovations that do not require a major change in lifestyle, thinking, or belief systems. These innovations are readily accepted into society and utilized by a high rate of the population fairly quickly. Some examples would be like a new automobile. We all have cars. Purchasing a new car is not a big deal. It's not a major change in our lifestyle, just some new update. Ultra-high definition televisions, that's not really a big change over high definition televisions or over the televisions before that. It's still a box, it still shows TV programs, and you still change channels. There's not a whole lot of difference there, so it's a continuous innovation. A new smartphone. We go from one smartphone to the next. There's no big deal there. You just get some new features, some new things to learn. Not much of a change. Smart watches are the new thing now. We've all had watches and we've all had phones that are smart, so now having a watch that does some new things, okay, that's just another continuous innovation. But probably the biggest continuous innovation in our society, yes, new drugs. Or even old drugs, just remarketed differently. For a population that is used to taking drugs, introducing them to another one or another use for a drug is not a big deal. This is why the drug companies are so successful in advertising to the public and getting such a high percentage of the public to take their products on a regular basis. So now let's look at discontinuous innovations. These are innovations that do require some degree of major change in lifestyle or challenge current thinking or belief systems. These innovations take longer to be accepted and require a higher degree of processing before becoming part of the mainstream. That's if they ever get there. Some of these discontinuous innovations are 3D TV. Now that sounded like a great idea, and years ago they started selling one. I actually even bought one, but I've never used it to watch a 3D program. So why is it a discontinuous innovation? Well, because you have to wear special glasses to watch the TV. And that would be a change in what we normally do. Another discontinuous innovation, Betamax. You've seen VHSs. They don't have them anymore, but they now have DVDs. But Betamax was actually supposedly a better product. But it required you only have a Sony machine to use. So it never made it. Another one, Laserdisc. Yes, I have a Laserdisc in my basement and a box full of these large Laserdiscs. Well, the problem was they weren't compact, they weren't like a CD, and they required a special machine. Trash compactors. What a great idea. Some way to compress trash so that it doesn't take up as much room. The problem with trash compactors and why they were so popular and never really made it to the general population after a while, nobody has them anymore, is that they required a special bag. You couldn't use your standard garbage bag that you bought from the store. You had to have a special type of bag to withstand the pressure. And probably the ultimate discontinuous innovation is us, chiropractic care. Does chiropractic require some degree of major change in lifestyle or challenge current thinking or belief systems? You bet it does. So in understanding that chiropractic is a discontinuous innovation, we can then look at how Jeffrey Moore talks about getting discontinuous innovations to the general public. It follows what he has called the adoption life cycle. And there are 5 groups in the adoption life cycle of what we will call potential patient populations. Here's the graph. 0% using the product or service at first, eventually moving to the right, 50%, and eventually 100%. So let's look at the 5 different groups. The first group is called the innovators. This is a group that aggressively pursues new ideas and concepts. They are generally intrigued with the chiropractic principle as soon as they hear about it. They want to convert others. Very supportive of chiropractic in the face of adverse news. These are your patients that when that news program comes on and says chiropractic does something bad, they come in and they quickly defend you by saying, "Oh, I see they're out to get you again, doctor. That's because you're cutting into their business." These people are often involved in other natural lifestyle choices. In fact, they may have even got a referral from that. The next group, which is also fairly small, is called the early adopters. This group buys into new ideas relatively easily. They have a more rational acceptance of the chiropractic principle. And by that I mean they relate chiropractic care to their specific situation. In other words, they have a condition, they understand that chiropractic helps it, and it makes sense because of the nerve system. They do rely on their own intuition to decide on chiropractic. They are very thoughtful people. Most chiropractors come from this group. And this group, as with the innovators, do not require scientific evidence to decide on care. See, to these people, it makes sense. So they didn't really care if it had science, it made sense. Now, the next big group is called the early majority. These people can relate to new ideas, but are very practical people. The mainstream medical model is well entrenched. They don't start off by questioning drugs or vaccinations or anything else in the medical model. They like to see authoritative acceptance to support their decisions, like chiropractic care. They want someone in authority to say it's okay to go. Insurance coverage is important, if for nothing more than that authoritative acceptance. In other words, because Medicare says that it's okay to go to a chiropractor, that means the federal government believes it's okay to go to chiropractors. They want to know there is science behind chiropractic. Will they ever read the studies? No, but they want to know there's science there. And they're not very accepting of alternative health care. In other words, they don't want to be part of something that's an alternative. These are mainstream people. They want to believe that the choices they're making are part of the mainstream or the early majority. The next group, of course, is going to be the late majority. These people have difficulty relating to new ideas. They are basically skeptical in nature. They want the new idea to be well established before accepting it. In other words, they're after half of the population decided to do something. They want definitive scientific evidence for healthcare choices. In other words, they're not going to actually read the science, but they want to know that science is well accepted and everyone agrees with it. They want, in fact, they must have authoritative acceptance. And they want the majority to agree with them. They're not going to step out first. They want to know everybody else is doing it before they do it. The last group in marketing is called the laggards. These are people, and especially with chiropractic, who resist anything new, think chiropractic is quackery, believe all adjustments cause a stroke, try to convince others not to use chiropractic. You know, when the innovators are telling you and telling other people, you need to go to the chiropractor, don't worry about what they say on television, these people are saying, see, I told you, they'll kill you. And usually these people cannot even pronounce the word chiropractic. Now, you chiropractors kill people. We've all run into a few of these over the years. Now, the problem is that the curve doesn't actually look like that. There is not a smooth transition between each of these groups. In fact, there are gaps between the groups that marketing understands requires special strategies to move from one to the other. It actually looks more like this. There is a gap between the innovators and the early adopters, as there is between the early and late majority and between the late majority and the laggards. But there is what is known as the chasm, a huge difference between the first two groups, the innovators and the early adopters, and the early majority, the big part of the population. So, the question, which of these groups do you think chiropractic has penetrated so far? Well, obviously, you'd be pretty right. It's the first two groups, the innovators and the early adopters. Why is advertising not as effective as it was in years past? Because it is really only the innovators who will respond to an advertisement, a few of the early adopters, who will say, oh, chiropractic, that sounds good, just based on an advertisement, I'm going to go. Most of those people are already going to chiropractors. So the effectiveness of advertising doesn't reach the early and late majority, the big parts of the population, on a discontinuous innovation like chiropractic. Let's look for a minute here at how to go from one to the next. Starting out with the innovators, this is the easiest group to convert to chiropractic. Respond to advertising and promotions. Do not need any perceived results to sustain their beliefs. As a matter of fact, if these people don't get better, they still believe in chiropractic. They also embrace other natural lifestyle choices, and they usually want to work for you. These are the ones if you happen to do screenings and you're setting up a screening, these are the ones who step up before you even set up, stand online, and wait to see you. I call these you had me on hello people. You don't even have to screen them, just sign them up for care, they're ready to go. Going from the innovators to the early adopters requires a little bit of different thought. Because the innovators, the early adopters are affected by the innovators, but don't really understand those people. They think the people are out there. They want to see a more practical application before deciding on chiropractic care. However, this group is the core of most practices and a solid long-term patients as well as source of referrals. The fact that our profession has survived 120 years is because of the early adopters. These are the people who have sustained our profession, sustained our schools and our lifestyle. There are enough of these people for our profession to survive. They embrace the philosophy but must have a practical application with it. In other words, they're not going to be jumping on the philosophy like the innovators do. They have to see that it works and then it makes sense and then they embrace the philosophy. Crossing the chasm, going from the early adopters to the early majority. Well, the early majority does not respond to the same motivations as did those first two groups. They must see a practical application before considering adopting the philosophy. In other words, they have to feel better and then it starts to click for them. Respond to results with evidence and they need solid education. These people have to be made to understand, otherwise they come in a couple of times, they feel better, and you never see them again. would like to see agreement for care from some recognized authority and peers. If their pastor is going to see you, that means it's okay for them. If someone they trust or a celebrity is going to see you, oh, that must be okay. Now, once they become patients, usually they're very loyal patients once they're converted. Now, by converted, I mean they finally get it and they understand. So if the education is there, they then kind of almost jump over to the early adopters. Going from the early to late majorities, well, the late majority, this group responds to referrals from the early majority, but will absolutely reject testimonials from the first two groups. They do not want to be associated with a natural lifestyle movement. In fact, that will turn them off. They want information before making a decision. They want to see large groups using the care before agreement, very symptom-oriented, and convert to philosophy very slowly. You know, you can spot one of these. They're pretty easy. Let's say you're doing a report of findings or a group report of findings, and the wife of a husband and wife is starting care. And after you've explained the x-rays and gone over the care with the wife, you turn to the husband and you say, so when do we get to check your spine, or when are you going to begin care? And the answer is very typical. I want to see how it works on her first. Basically meaning that husband is willing to sacrifice his wife's life to see if you don't kill her before he'll decide. Well, it's not exactly true, but that is a late majority. When they say that to you, you know you have a late majority person there. Going from the late majority to the laggards, well, marketing has decided who cares. Marketing does not spend time trying to convert the laggards to any kind of a product or service. As far as chiropractic, laggards only consider care as an absolute last resort. Even in the face of overwhelming evidence, massive referrals, as well as support from the early and late majorities, and even acceptance from their accepted authorities, this group will still remain skeptical and will never embrace the chiropractic philosophy. In other words, don't waste your time. So, crossing the chasm. How do we make the transition to mainstream populations by crossing that chasm? Well, there are basically three strategies to do so: education, outreach, and resource. By using these three properly, you can cross the chasm. Well, first of all, education. What do we mean by that? You know, it is now possible to have more information on your patient's fingertips than ever in the history of chiropractic. For decades, we were handing out paper pamphlets and handing out small amounts of information. Well, now, using the web and using the resources of computers, you can now give them thousands of pieces of information on almost every subject and every possible condition. So why not utilize that kind of technology? We should not be just handing out trifold pamphlets and think that's enough education. We should be continuing to do group or individual education with patients, but we should augment that with technology. As far as outreach, you can reach more people than ever inexpensively. You know, in the past, we used to have to pay huge amounts of money to send out flyers or tabloids. Well, now, again, using the internet, things like real news, email newsletters, bulk emailings that you can create, e-cards, you can outreach people that you probably have never had a chance to, on a regular basis, touch with. So all of your past patients, all of your ongoing patients, even people in your community that you can gather email addresses for, you can reach out to these people on a regular basis through things like email newsletters or blogs or things. And resource. Resource is important because you have to have a regular way for people to have information who come to your office. A system of information delivery greater than the sum of all past systems in the entire history of our profession is available. Things like a kiosk in your office with hundreds and hundreds of articles on chiropractic and chiropractic research that you can give to people so you can get that early and late majority. All right, a chiropractic news service, something that plays videos, people are very visual, in your waiting area, allowing people to learn things they didn't know about chiropractic and health while they're spending time in your office. You know, you don't have to convince them on chiropractic. They're already there. But you need to strengthen their information and give them tools to make referrals. Well, that includes also your website, which needs to be a resource, not just an advertisement. In fact, websites are a very poor advertisement. If it's not an educational resource, you're missing out. Your website needs to be an absolute resource where people can send other people to get valuable health information and make the decision to start chiropractic.